Okay, it's amazing, isn't it? The only thing that gets more conversation than City of Troy is the Cheltenham Festival, even though we're in September and it's not till March. The downgrade to the Turners Novices Chase, which was a Grade 1 and is now going to be turned back into a novice handicap. Well, they're bringing the old novice handicap back, and the slightly less old novice chase goes out. I mean, the point to make, Graham, is both of these concepts are relatively modern concepts anyway, so it's not as though you're actually ripping up anything that's very well established.
Yeah, well done to Peter Scargill, who I think got the exclusive on this.
From the sponsor, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of novice handicap chases, so I'm a bit biased. I'm glad to see that race come back. It should propel some really good horses from the Turners to the Arkle and to the staying novice chase, so that's a good thing. Willie Mullins has never won a handicap chase at the Cheltenham Festival. Gordon Elliott never won the novices handicap chase. I think they'll take this move slightly personally and set out to have a couple ready for the novices handicap chase.
Actually, it's the Grade 1 in which, amazingly, British trainers seem to have actually done okay in recently. I mean, on principle, Adrian, do you like the idea of trying to force the Grade 1 horses into 2 pots rather than spread them across 3 pots?
Yeah, I think it's a good concept. Look, change is always good, whether people are negative at the time or not. It opens up more doors for everyone else. So
shows people are thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And sure, look, you're never going to keep everyone happy with change, you know. So I think it's a good concept.
The key point to make is that there was a buzz missing from the Cheltenham Festival this year. The Cheltenham Festival cannot afford to lose that. So I think it's the first of a series of changes. And I don't think you have to make a raft of radical changes to get that buzz back. So hopefully that'll work. The other point to make, the cross-country chase is being made a handicap again. That seems a done deal. And Eddie O'Leary came out and railed against it from Jigginstown and has said that recently the cross-country chase has been one of the races of the week. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's ever been one of the races of the week. Right. Richard Hughes had a horse called Ballarat Bertie. Correct. Who's rated 40-something after 3 undistinguished runs, had a wind operation. A lot of money for the horse, came at Kempton Monday evening. Horse was withdrawn. Self-certificate, and the reason, in brackets, was owner unable to attend, because the owner of the horse, who also sponsors Richard's Yard and has had some pretty good jumpers as well with Nigel Twist and Davis, Flying Angel and others, he apparently was stuck in traffic around Junction 12 on the M40, but of course that prompted a flurry of speculation about A, why the horse was a non-runner, and B, how you were able to use the self-certification system, which then disqualifies you from running the horse for the next 7 days. He's in tomorrow, isn't he, at Wolverhampton?
I don't think he is now.
He not going to run?
He had that potential. 2 camps, disgrace, owner pays the bills, very familiar. Richard Hughes could have just fibbed and said horse didn't eat up, etc., etc. He chose to tell the truth, gets pillory for it. You know it's a quiet news day when the headline on top of the story is, "It's a bit annoying." That goes to enough is enough. The point here is the BHA, I'm not here to just bag them willy-nilly, but if you're allowed to take a horse out because the owner's in traffic, it just looks a bit Bush League, Nick.
Well, you can do, that's the point, Adrian, you can self-cert for anything. You could actually technically write self-certificate brackets, miss the price, if you wanted to. And your only censure would be 7 days on the sideline.
Yeah,
So,
and look, as Graham said, he could have said anything and he told the truth and he got slaughtered for it. But look, it's one of those. I mean, the owner does pay the bills, and if he's not there to witness his horse running, sure, it's fair enough, isn't it? He's paying enough money for the right for that much of a right anyway, you know.
But is it fair enough though, or do we really need to, for the integrity of a betting product and a product that's going to appeal to the customer, doesn't what appears in the race card in the morning need to, as you know, where within the bounds of reasonable possibility, reflect what happens in the afternoon?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm gone to the point now where Richard probably would have been better just writing down anything other than what you wrote down.
And that probably is it in a nutshell, isn't it?
It absolutely is, but it's an awkward look for punters who think the horse was back from 14s to 3s and now it's a non-runner.
There was a an update this week from the Betting and Gaming Council, who had an independent survey performed on research into how much money is going into black market bookmaking, owing to affordability checks. New CEO of the Betting and Gaming Council, Grania Hurst, released a statement. Graham, what were the numbers? Well,
it seems that black market wagering, it seems that it's growing appreciably year on year, practically doubled from 19 to 20 and near enough doubled again, if you believe the figures. And that is absolutely key. This is my problem with this. Getting hard data on black market betting is well nigh impossible. And my opinion of this is somewhat coloured and made slightly cynical because I attended a seminar on this subject once. It was fascinating to listen to, and the very eminent presenter of the seminar gave us all the details, how this was a tremendous threat to racing's turnover. And when it had all finished, I went over to him and said, "That was fascinating. Just tell me how you get your numbers on this." And he looked down and gave me a wink and said, "Have you ever heard of £350 million on the side of a bus?" Which echoes Boris Johnson's Brexit comments. And that made me a bit cynical about the whole thing. We have two sides, the Gambling Commission saying this is overblown, the Betting and Gaming Council saying
it was on this programme that Andrew Rhodes tore into the idea that black market gambling was a major threat to the viability of British horse racing and everything else.
It's not my area of expertise, but we are being invited to believe, I think it's 4 billion is the number being mentioned at the moment. I think that my rudimentary maths means that's £80 million a week being staked on the black market. Now, it may be true, but I'm not convinced.
OK, let's move on and have a word about the Melbourne Cup, because this week Willie Mullins confirmed Vauban and Absurd as both on course for another tilt at the race, both having been a bit disappointing in it last year. He said that Epop de Loire wouldn't run, Magical Zoe is not going to run, Dermot Weld has ruled out his contender as well, and Aidan O'Brien, perhaps most significantly of all, has said his 3-year-olds are unlikely to pass the preliminary veterinary checks, and the reason he gave for that was because the amount of bone development and remodelling that's taking place at this time of their career means that the X-rays will always tend to kind of skew against them. Adrian, I'd love a trainer's perspective on this and how you would approach this if you had a 3-year-old who was kind of developing into a cup horse and could be Melbourne bound, where of course they would be at a big advantage from a weights perspective.
Yeah, look, I think as far as I'm aware, the veterinary procedures that the horse has to go through leading into going to Australia are very severe on the horse. So I think that's why a lot of people are veering away from it. So look, there is some truth in the horse being a little bit underdeveloped as a 3-year-old, but it is very severe on them, and if you don't want to put your horse through that, I think you've every right not to,
But Willie Mullins, who is not a man known for being someone who doesn't work his horses hard, seems to be able to get a horse into this race every single year, and sometimes two.
Multiple horses, and we shouldn't forget Absurd, who ran a belter last year, finished ahead of Vauban last year, and back on song after a good Chester win.
Have you ridden in the Melbourne Cup?
No.
Would you like to?
I'd love to, yeah. I'm free, so if anyone's looking there, I'm free if you want. But I think with the Aidan, with these 3-year-olds, the first half of the year he's finding out what they are. Second half of the year he's placing them to where they should go, whereas Willie has an older bunch of horses. He can work back from the Melbourne Cup with that being the main aim. He can give it 2 or 3 runs and have it spot on, where it's kind of that 3-year-old category just falls a bit. You're kind of going through half the season. If it doesn't work out with them, you're chopping and changing course.
Let's move on, talk about the retirement of Franny Norton, which deserves more play, and it will get full play next week when Franny Norton is on this sofa. Amazing, he goes and rides a treble on the last day. I was going to say you couldn't write it, but you kind of could write it, and you kind of wrote it beforehand, but he executed it all with all the elan you'd have expected.
He did, and do you know what? Franny is one of those. He's one of those men in the weigh room. There's not one jockey inside the weigh room that has one as a bad word to say about him or doesn't have nothing but the utmost respect for him, even though he's not the tallest, he's not the strongest, but he's, you know, one of those, a bit like Joe Fanning, the same. The two of them are just, you know, they're the two legends of the sport, and it was brilliant. Even being in Newbury yesterday, everyone in the weigh room was just shouting home everything of his, and I don't think, I seen a couple of videos after of his son crying and all that, but it was fair play to him. He'll always be a legend, I think, in the sport from here on in.
Fantastic sign-off commentary from Stuart Machin,
brilliant, wasn't it?
as Catal ground his way through the rain to seal the treble for Franny Norton. I was saying to Rossa just before we started the show, it's astonishing the longevity of riders' careers nowadays. The Franny Norton in 1991, which I think was 9 years before you were born, Rossa, was claiming 5, weighed out at 7 stone 5 pounds to ride in the Ebor for Sir Michael Stout, just Michael in those days, I think, on De Posky, and the winning distances were 5 and 5. And since then, she's our mare for Tony Martin in the Cambridgeshire, our Jonathan for Kevin Ryan in the Ayr Gold Cup, Permian for Mark Johnson, beat a stacked field in the Dante Stakes, an amazingly colourful character, and I think he might have an interesting career ahead of him. He wants to help kids from deprived areas find their niche in the racing industry, and you think, yes, you would be a very good fit for that job.
Yeah, because he came in, as you say, came into the sport with no racing background at all. Somebody just casually suggested to him, "Will you small be a jockey?" And on it went from there. But really, what you need now is somebody to be in a position to even think about horse racing, and that's probably where we're in a different space to where we were 35 years ago.
And when you hear a guy like Rossa, who's pushing 30 years younger than Franny, and say that not one of his peers has a negative word to say, that's hard to achieve when you've been around for so long.
And you got to credit where credit is due. You know, everyone's going on saying there's not new people getting into the sport, this, that and the other. Franny's gone out and doing it. You know, he's grabbed the bull by the horns, and he feels it's the right time, and he understands where he is and has so much knowledge to bring. And he's one of those people, when he talks, you listen. So hopefully he will do very well in his next chapter.
Rossa, when you're 24, you just don't think that far down the road. But it is amazing to see how Dettori, Fanning, Norton, plenty others, they can have a career that spans many decades now.
Oh, for sure. But they keep themselves, Franny's 51, is it? He's one of the fittest men in the weigh room.
54, I
think. Unbelievable.
And of course, he's a great friend of Frankie Dettori and has been for many years. They're roughly the same age, and Frankie is still going strong, or at least he was until Friday evening. Belmont at the Big A, so Aqueduct. He's riding in the last race, riding quite a well-fancied filly in a nice-looking maiden special weight. She goes up on her hind leg, she spins round, and he comes off and just lands wrong, and he's dislocated his shoulder. Now, he says he's going to see a specialist tomorrow to assess the extent of the damage. I think the medics popped the shoulder straight back in. Sounds easy. In fact, as anyone who's done it knows, extremely painful and can cause lots of attendant damage. Now, this couldn't have come at a worse time, Graham, because the California Crown is next week. He had a big meeting at Finger Lakes to go to in between times. And then, of course, most importantly, he's got the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks away, 5 weeks away.
One superstar. Anthony Joshua faces a very uncertain future, but I think the sort of injury for Frankie Dettori. What about your experience, Rossa? Can you get back within a few weeks from a knock like that?
I wouldn't know from a shoulder because I haven't done one, but I'd say he will be against the clock.
And if he doesn't get to the Breeders' Cup and Kinross does go, can you think of anyone who might step in for the ride at all?
I don't know. We'll leave our options open.
But I'm guessing if he's okay and that horse goes, he's kind of his ride if he's in America, isn't he?
You don't know.
Debatable.
Yeah, you don't know. We'll see how the foray goes, but you can imagine if he does win the foray and wins Champions Day, that Frankie will be down the phone trying to take what he left behind.
How do you bet, Adrian?
I'm backing Rossa.
Possession is 9/10 of the law, as they say.
Frankie, get well soon. Well, 3 of us think that anyway. Those were this week's talking points.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.